Hey guys, welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel, where today we are discussing Declan Rice. Now, before some of you guys roll your eyes and say, it was only the other week we were talking about Declan Rice, I don't really care. Now, the main reason we're doing another video is because in that particular video, it was very much centred around how Declan Rice would fit in at Manchester United, and I'm aware that fans of other teams don't really watch those videos. However, if you've been following the news this week, it looks very much like Arteta's had a couple of bids rejected already, but Arsenal are clearly interested in him. Manchester City have now had a bid or about to bid. They're clearly interested, and also there are talks again that United are still interested, with some sort of offer with maybe McTominay or Maguire involved. So all three managers are interested. United fans have kind of seen my thoughts on Declan Rice before, but maybe Manchester City and Arsenal fans haven't, so I think it's only right to cover it. So today we're discussing Declan Rice's strengths and weaknesses, and I mean, first things first, in terms of using the word weaknesses, there aren't many with Declan Rice. There really aren't many. This video is going to highlight how good he really is, because some people look at Declan Rice and say, English tax. He's not actually that good. He's become a bit overhyped. Wrong. Declan Rice is still underrated. This guy is worth more than £100 million. He is absolutely incredible, and will be one of the best midfielders in the world for the next decade or so, if he goes to the right manager and gets the right development, which I think he would under any of these three managers. So, you know, let's look at what he kind of currently brings to the side and what he currently brings to West Ham. If I can get the tactics up on screen. Here we go. Declan Rice, West Ham, we've got him in the black shirt here to make him stand out from the rest. What is Declan Rice good at? Well, we'll start with the defensive side of the game, because I think that's probably what he's a bit more well known for. What is Declan Rice good at in terms of defending? Everything. He's really strong, he's really physical, he's very good in the air, he wins ground duels, he wins aerial duels, good tackler, good at reading the play, very good at intercepting, very good at breaking up the play on the counter-attack or on the transition when his team might be exposed. He's very good at covering the ground. On top of that, his work rate is just absolutely incredible. He covers a stupid amount of ground every single game, and, you know, for 90 minutes, he just goes and goes and goes. His engine is absolutely phenomenal. But he's also capable of sitting a little bit deeper, kind of protecting the defence in these areas. All round, Declan Rice is very, very good defensively, and this is reflected in parts of his FP Ref report. In terms of talking about him kind of protecting his defence, we can see ranking in the 84th percentile for tackles in his own defensive third. In terms of percentage of dribblers tackled, the 96th percentile, interceptions, the 95th percentile, we can see Declan Rice is all round very good from a defensive point of view. Now, you might think some of these numbers are a little bit low in terms of tackles in the middle third and tackles in the attacking third, but fear not, that is more to do with West Ham's tactics and David Moyes' approach to matches rather than Declan Rice. If Declan Rice is asked to play in a side which presses high up the pitch, more than capable of doing it. I mean, more than capable of doing it. Declan Rice is absolutely brilliant from a defensive point of view and would improve all of these teams in terms of the robustness which he's going to bring to the midfield, a real athleticism, physicality, covers a lot of ground, but also intelligence, when to delay a move, when to pounce and make a tackle. Declan Rice would improve all these teams defensively drastically. He really is one of the best defensive-minded midfielders in the Premier League and in the world. Now, I think that is probably the side of the game which people know a bit more about with Declan Rice. I think when we think of Declan Rice, a lot of people do think of this, again, quote, defensive midfielder. Not particularly a term I like, but that is how people think of Declan Rice, because he is very good off the ball. But I think he is also incredible on the ball as well, and severely underrated. And in terms of his first touch, his control, his technical ability, again, he's massively underrated. He really is underappreciated in this aspect of the game. In terms of, you know, playing out from the back, playing out from the press, he's always making himself an option, he's always available. If he isn't available, he will soon make the move to make sure that he can receive the pass in the midfield. From where he has a good turning radius, he's able to get the ball, turn and play forward. Is he press resistant of the likes of Bernardo Silva or Frankie de Jong? No, he's not of that level, and he's never going to be because of his size. He has to do it in a slightly different way, but he's very good at using his body to hold opponents off. So in terms of in this area, can he drop in and play out from the back? Yes, Declan Rice can. He's very, very good at it, and he does have that technical ability, which is really underrated. He's also very good at driving forward with the ball as well. And for me, he's one of the best ball-carrying midfielders in the world, and I think this might be one of the main reasons why teams are looking at him. When you play in the Premier League, a lot of teams go man for man in the midfield. If you have a player who can go man for man up against the opponent, and 9 times out of 10 he's going to beat them because he's so good technically and he's so powerful at carrying the ball forward, that is a huge asset to have in your team. Declan Rice is an absolutely phenomenal ball carrier. And once again, this is backed up in his FP Ref report, where we can see that he ranks in the 82nd percentile for total carrying distance and the 89th percentile for progressive carrying distance. And again, what we have to take into consideration here is that this is in a West Ham team which doesn't have too much of the ball. He isn't playing in a team which has 60 to 70% possession. He would be doing that if he was to move to any of those three clubs. So we would see these numbers improve even further. And I mean, what I quite like as well is the 83rd percentile for missed controls, kind of highlighting that technically he is very, very good. Very good on the ball, and again, genuinely underrated. Another area of his game which I think is really underappreciated by the worldwide, really, by most fans, is his passing ability. Declan Rice is a very, very good passer. Now, I think maybe some of the reason that this potentially goes under the radar at times is, again, he's playing for West Ham. They don't exactly play glamorous tiki-taka football. We don't really see it. But Declan Rice is still very, very good with his passing. He's a very secure short passer. He's very good with his medium range passing as well. So in terms of if you want to build possession from the back, Declan Rice is more than capable of doing that. He's capable of flicking a ball out to a fullback as well to kind of evade pressure. But I think what I like the most is his long passing ability. He's one of the most effortless long passers in the world, able to receive the ball from a fullback, turn, and then just ping the most ridiculous pass out to the right winger. And I mean, if we're looking at the linked clubs, Arsenal use a wide right winger. Manchester City use a wide right winger. Manchester United use a wide right winger. This is why they are all interested in Declan Rice, because he has this ability in possession to switch the play from one side to the other very, very easily. He's also good at progressing the ball through the middle of the pitch with his passing as well, forward passes through the lines, and I think this is a side of his game which has developed in the past few seasons quite impressively. I think there's still room for further growth. I think currently he does it a lot in transition on the counter-attack. I would like to see it in sustained possession a little bit more. But again, his passing numbers are very good. He's very good on the ball. And again, we see it in his FB ref report. I'm not going to go through all of these numbers, but I mean, what you can see quite clearly is that this is very green, very dense green bars, which shows that he's ranking very well in pretty much every single passing metric. In terms of where he would need to improve from this point of view if he was to move to one of these top clubs, it's probably his output in the final third. He's never going to be an attacking midfielder or a creative midfielder, but at times it would be nice to see him try and clip balls into the box on a slightly more regular basis, or perhaps with more success even. That is something I would like to see from Declan Rice in the future. But what we can see is that Declan Rice he's just genuinely phenomenal. He's just such a good footballer. The football is almost always in one of four phases. This is a Jose Mourinho idea which he used to talk about quite a lot. There's four phases in football. There is the possession phase, there is the transition from possession to defending, there is then the defending phase, and then there's the transition phase from defending to attacking. So for example, you're either attacking, moving from attack to defence, defending, or moving from defence to attack. That's kind of how Jose Mourinho used to talk about the game. Declan Rice is very, very good. More than very good, he's incredible in all four phases, which is why he is such a good player. He is so well-rounded, without any real clear weaknesses to his game. That is why everybody wants him. With that being said, where can he go? Well, the first question is, what is the best fit? Is it Arsenal? Is it Manchester City? Is it Manchester United? I genuinely don't know at the moment. But one thing which really suits Declan Rice with any move here is his versatility. He could move to any of these clubs and play as a solo 6, like this. He could move to any of these clubs and play in a double pivot in a 4-2-3-1, or he could move to any of these clubs and play as probably a left-sided midfielder in a 4-3-3 formation. So let's take a look at how he fits into each different team. So first up, Arsenal. Why would Mikel Arteta want Declan Rice? Well, for me it's pretty clear to see why. They're losing a leader in their midfield with Granit Xhaka leaving the club. Declan Rice replaces that. He really is a real leader at such a young age. In terms of technically, he's very good on the ball and offers everything in terms of ball progression which they need. For me, he's better than Thomas Partey on the ball. Some people disagree, but I think Declan Rice is much better at managing the tempo of a football match. So I think he'd be better in that department as well. Defensively, the way he covers ground, his physicality, it's something which Arteta uses a lot in his sides. We saw how good they were at pressing last season. Declan Rice fits that. Arsenal cover a lot of ground, they're very physical in the way that they press. Declan Rice, of course, fits that. So Declan Rice to Arsenal is, in terms of from Arsenal's point of view, should they pursue this transfer, it's an absolute no-brainer. Declan Rice walked into this team. He is a significant upgrade on Granit Xhaka as the left-sided central midfielder, so he could play there, or he could play in the holding midfield role instead of Thomas Partey. Without a doubt, Declan Rice would improve this Arsenal team. He is so good on the ball. In terms of tactically, where does he fit? Well, if he was to be the deeper midfielder, for the purpose of this, we'll put Xhaka back in, although he's not there. For example, though, in this shape, he would happily play in a double pivot with Zinchenko. He's very capable of doing that, and, tactically that works quite nicely. He improves their rest defence. Or we could see him playing as this slightly higher player, where perhaps in that situation Arsenal play with a bit more variety in the game, and we see a few more rotations in the way that they play, a few more movements around the pitch. At times he would drop deeper, Zinchenko would push forward, maybe Martinelli would come inside, Zinchenko would go around. Declan Rice would provide them with the ability to really rotate into different systems, which is a very, very powerful weapon to have. So that's why Arteta wants him. Arsenal need to do everything they can to make this move happen. Next up, Manchester City. Why would they want Declan Rice? Well, again, it's largely for the same reasons. It's for his technical ability on the ball, his reading of the play, his ability to dictate a game, carry a ball forward and really provide to the attack, and improve the team's ability to progress the ball forward. But also, it's about the work he does off the ball, out of possession, his physicality, his ability to cover ground. And the fact that we're talking about this for an Arsenal holding midfielder or central midfielder, and the same for Manchester City, kind of really highlights the way the game is going at the moment. A couple of years ago, even just last season, there was a big emphasis on technical footballers. Some of them were a bit smaller and not so great at defending. Declan Rice is kind of this new trend of footballer we're seeing, which is just massive, physically so good, covers a lot of ground, works really hard, but is still very, very technical. So that is why Pep Guardiola wants him at the club. In terms of where he would play, I think it's a little bit less straightforward. With Arsenal, we see Xhaka on the way out and also probably Thomas Partey, so there's two positions for him to come into. But in terms of Manchester City, it's not quite as obvious. Because for me, Declan Rice is best position, and where I see his long-term future, and where I see him becoming an elite player, one of the best ever maybe, is as a holding midfielder. But Manchester City already have Rodri in that position. Could Rice genuinely replace Rodri? Is that possible? He had such a good season last year, Rodri, but we know that Pep Guardiola is constantly evolving his teams. Could we see something like this happening? Possibly. Declan Rice brings a bit more defensive cover to the team, and we do know that is something that Guardiola is focusing on. So we could see that. The other option is for him to replace Gundogan, who is going to Barcelona, and that looks like a bit more of a straight swap, Declan Rice into this position. Now, again, this would mean that Guardiola changes his tactics slightly, because Gundogan was all about getting into the final third and scoring goals. Declan Rice doesn't offer that. So if Declan Rice is to move to Manchester City and play this position, we would see some sort of change of tactics. Do I know what that is right now? Not particularly. I mean, maybe it could look something a bit like this, going back to having two double pivots and having a forward pushing higher, maybe something like this. That's the sort of thing that we could maybe see along those lines. I'm not too sure right now. Declan Rice to Manchester City, in my opinion, isn't quite as much of a seamless fit. I don't quite see exactly where he goes into the team. The left central midfield spot at Manchester City is slightly different to what it is at Arsenal, and I don't like the dynamic of it quite as much. And as a holding midfielder, you are competing with Rodri, who is the best in the world at the moment in that position. However, Declan Rice is a confident young man, and the ability and the potential to work under Pep Guardiola would be hard for anyone to turn down. I completely understand why City want to go for him. It's pretty obvious. Then the final question is, why would Manchester United want Declan Rice? They signed Casemiro last summer. Do they really need him? But again, I think the reasons are pretty obvious. It's all the same reasons as the other two clubs, plus the fact that Erik ten Hag loves versatile players which can play in a few different positions. Now, Declan Rice's position, as I've already said, in the long term for me is as a holding midfielder, and I think it's unlikely that he displaces Casemiro this early in the Ten Hag rebuild, so he probably would be a left-sided central midfielder. Now, I think this would see a slight change in approach from Manchester United. I think we'd see something which looks a little bit like this in terms of the build-up shape. It would be something like this, getting Rashford inside, Shaw further forward, and going for this sort of attacking structure. Now, from a defensive point of view, once again, Declan Rice is clearly going to upgrade this team, whilst also being better on the ball than what Eriksen was. So once again, it's pretty obvious why Declan Rice is wanted by Manchester United. Can they afford him? I'm not too sure. But again, in terms of asking the question, why does Ten Hag want him? It's pretty obvious. Defensively, he's very good, he's versatile, he can play a few different positions, he's very physical, covers a lot of ground, has brilliant availability, and then on the ball, so underrated. He really is very good. And that is why Arteta, Guardiola, and Ten Hag want him. That says everything about Declan Rice as a player. The fact that these three want him shows how good he is. Now, where should he go? I'm not too sure. All three clubs should be targeting him because he improves all three teams. If I was Declan Rice, I think I would go for Arsenal as my preferred choice. If all three teams were to come in with literally the same offer, which is unlikely, but if they were, Arsenal would be the team of choice for me if I was Declan Rice. I think it guarantees football, it guarantees a place in the starting 11, whilst also almost guaranteeing that you are going to be competing for trophies next season. It looks like Arsenal are on the up, they're rebuilding the squad really well, So Declan Rice to Arsenal, being the centrepiece, having the team built around you, probably becoming the captain within 12 to 18 months, that could be a really exciting prospect for Declan Rice. So if I was him, I would go to Arsenal. The next option is probably Manchester City. That probably is the next better option, and there's two main reasons for that. One, you're going to get a lot of cash because they have a lot of money, but the other reason is you are going to get trophies under Pep Guardiola. I mean, football isn't quite as black and white as that, but realistically, playing for this Manchester City team under Pep Guardiola, which is going from strength to strength, constantly re-evolving itself, Declan Rice, you go there, you probably are going to get trophies, so I would completely understand why he would want to go there. The drawback of it, however, is the fact that you are less likely to play with the likes of Rodri in midfield, Kovacic being signed, Kevin De Bruyne. There's much more competition. It's much harder to get into that team. And if I'm Declan Rice, I might be looking at Calvin Phillips and saying, look at his position at the moment, it's not gone too well. So there's pluses and negatives there. And then finally, Manchester United. Should Declan Rice go to Manchester United? Well, again, I could see why he would want to go. Manchester United are, of course, the biggest club in England. Everyone knows that. I mean, are they the best? Absolutely not. But in terms of size, fan base, worldwide and everything, Manchester United are the biggest team without being the best. They are in the Champions League. I mean, it seems like he gets on quite well with several of the United players, the likes of Luke Shaw, Marcus Rashford, someone like Mason Mount if he was to join the club, Harry Maguire while he's still there. I could see Declan Rice coming into the team. In terms of playtime, Declan Rice is guaranteed playtime. He's guaranteed to get into the starting 11, probably initially as a left-sided central midfielder, and then eventually replacing Casemiro. He could be United's main man for the next decade if he wanted to. So again, I could see why he would want to go for that. However, the guarantee of trophies and quick success isn't there as much. So there's three very different options on the table here for Declan Rice. Now we just wait and see which one he picks. He will be moving this summer. He absolutely deserves to. He's one of the best young players in the world. One of the best players in the world, full stop, really. Such a good player. Now we just sit back, watch the carnage of the bidding war unfold. West Ham sit there counting the money as it comes in. It's a win-win for everyone, really. Declan Rice is going to get his big move. Some club is going to get a top player. And West Ham are going to get their money. So everyone is going to be happy, apart from two of these managers. Who will it be? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. But apart from that, thank you guys for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.